This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by the British Columbia Personal Training Institute. Learn how to train, gain, and retain clients. Visit bcpti.ca. On today's episode, we welcome Sumeet Sharma. Sumeet is an incredible example of how physical activity can bring together community. On the podcast, Sumeet opens up about his transformation. He shares how he was overweight in high school, and it wasn't until he was attending college through his teachers that he fell in love with fitness and specifically lifting weights. In fact, it was the love of the weight room that set the stage for him to become a champion powerlifter. Sumeet notably won a gold medal for Team Canada in powerlifting at the North America Powerlifting Championships and has taken home plenty of other hardware. What's most intriguing about Sumeet is the amount of time he dedicates back to his community. He does regular talks at schools to share why physical activity is so important for the body and mind. Plus, he finds unique ways with his sponsors to give back to those in need. Before we get to the episode, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcasts weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. Plus, we're continuing our gym and wellness haven tours with inspiring founder stories. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well. This is ATFW. I'm so thrilled to have you because you actually reached out on social media. That's how we got connected. And then I started to dig into your incredible story and fitness journey, which really has become one that's evolved into this huge sense of community and giving back. So I want to know, way back when, young Sumeet, what was your relationship like with fitness through your youth?
Back in my youth, when I was in high school, I was quite overweight. Never really took care of my health. Even like the money that my parents gave me for lunch money was used for like the vending machine, going to KFC and McDonald's. Never really took interest in fitness. I was one of those kids that were just overweight and just had no interest in fitness at all. Even though like I was back in high school, I played soccer, took swimming lessons. I just never really excelled in fitness in general. Things really picked up for me when I went to college. I went to Douglas College, took some fitness classes down there. They really changed my perspective on, making a change. I met some great professors there. Once I took those classes, I really wanted to make a change in my life. So I started talking to my instructors, talking to personal trainers. And from there, that's when I was determined to make a change in regards to my health and my fitness.
What was it? Do you recall specific things through that time period that kind of resonated with you and gave you a bit of that aha moment?
For me, I have a lot of people in my family that have like high blood pressure, high diabetes. Both of them have wound up in the hospital. And you have someone close to you, go to the hospital, do not taking care of their health. I don't want that, that happen to me. So, as I was, as something like that happening to me, I started doing more research, they're talking to my instructors, hearing their opinions, hearing their concerns, really put in my mind that, I want to make a change, and it has to start now.
I think it's really impressive hearing that you were of that age and having that what hit you the most, because I think so often, I know myself when I was in my early 20s, everything's kind of about what you see, who your role models might be in the fitness space, and it becomes so much about the physical where you're nailing it. Like everything that we do in our life really dictates, there's so many preventative things that we can do from a health capacity.
Yes.
So obviously, you've had tremendous success once you got dialed in. So I want to know how this bridge was built. How did the beginning of your fitness journey begin?
After I talked to my instructors, I started doing my own research, started talking to personal trainers, talking to friends that, I've been going to the gym on a regular basis. First and foremost thing, I was quite overweight. I was about 230, and that's just strictly from eating junk food and not really doing any cardio conditioning. So from like around 225, 230, I wanted to just lose a lot of weight. So within a period of 6 months, I went down from 230, 225 all the way down to 173.
Wow. And what were you, did you have a trainer guiding you along?
I had no trainer. It was
good for you.
It was strictly putting in time, putting effort in the gym, eating right. At first it wasn't easy, but you just gotta be really determined and give it your all. And I took it day by day. I just kept on going to the scale and seeing if I'm making any efforts. And once you see some weight going down, you're like, you start believing in yourself. And so once I hit 173, I was quite happy with, where I was at, but started wanting to lift some weights, because at that point it was just strictly cardio, running laps and all that. Before I started lifting weights again, I started talking to personal trainers, talking to family members that used to go to the gym, and friends as well. And, I started getting a personal trainer myself, and right off the bat, I knew that I could lift a lot of heavy weight. So from 2015, I decided that, hey, I'm going to compete in a powerlifting show. So for 1 year, I trained with a personal trainer and did my first show in Abbotsford in bench press. Even though I finished in second place, the experience was such a rewarding experience. Like, usually, when you have competition, you want someone to win, one person to lose and all that, but it was such a positive experience from the host to the audience members to the competitors. They all wanted you to succeed. So even though I finished in second, I was my total was enough for me to qualify to provincials. So I went down to provincials, finished in first place there. From provincials, I went to competed in Edmonton for Western Canada, finished first place there. From there, I qualified to nationals. Nationals is basically the biggest powerlifting event in our country. Each city gets selected. So I went down in Winnipeg, finished first place there. Was selected to represent Canada at the Commonwealth Powerlifting Championship in Newfoundland. Finished in, I believe I got bronze for Canada there. Then the same year, I went to Panama, competed at the North American Powerlifting Championship, won gold there, and in 2021 was selected again to represent Canada in Costa Rica at the North Powerlifting Championship, and finished first place and won gold for Canada there.
That first competition, as you say, it was all about this camaraderie. And I think what you're speaking to is something that, we talk about gym intimidation sometimes, and there can be this barrier for people when they're entering that space.
Yeah.
And what you're speaking to there represents so much of what this community is all about. Because at the end of the day, when you lean into physical activity, it breeds positivity.
For sure.
And therefore, you have this supportive community. But talk to me about those early days where all of a sudden you realized, I am actually, I have a knack for this. I can do this. Because that's a huge change from where you were at.
It was, and then... Again, like when I finished in second place that day, my girlfriend, now my wife, she's like, I think you can actually, do some damage here, and, ever since then, it was such, like I said, it was such a positive experience. Things just took off from there. I just kept on getting better and better. Trained with the right people, had the right support. And I think that's something huge. If you want to go into something, it doesn't have to be in powerlifting, anything, just surround yourself with positive people. And that's what I had. I had good family friends, that supported me throughout this. And, when you surround yourself with positive people, you're going to get positive results.
Well, and I think when you put the work in as well, you can yield epic results, which is what you've been doing. So I come more from the bodybuilding background. So talk to me a little bit about the level of dedication. What does that training look like as you're preparing for these competitions?
First one, you got to eat right? So usually when it comes down to competition, I usually tend to cut down to the 93 kg. So I'm usually like maybe 10 pounds, 5 pounds out. And when it comes down to showtime, I got to make the weight. So it's about eating right. About maybe 2-3 months before the show, I'll start cutting down weight. So it's a lot of, again, a lot of cardio, a lot of conditioning there. And you also got to mix it up with a lot of powerlifting exercises. So usually before the show time, within 2-3 months, it's a lot of, a little bit of conditioning, eating right, a lot of protein, no junk food. As far as workouts goes, probably 3-4 times a week. And it's just building endurance, and higher reps as well.
And what about the mental changes that you've gone through when you look back to where you started this journey and then to actually get so involved with the sport?
I did my first show. I was like, okay, I'll go to provincials, we'll see what happens there. I did provincials, did pretty well there. And then each show that I kept on doing, I started believing in myself. I started believing in more of my abilities. When I started this whole powerlifting, I did not imagine that I'd be representing Canada and, winning gold. My goal was each show at a time, right? And, once I started finishing first place in provincials, westerns, nationals, I just kept on having higher goals. And then, eventually I worked my way up to eventually qualifying to the World's Powerlifting Championship in 2020. But unfortunately that got canceled due to COVID.
Well, let's talk about that, because I kind of spoke to the fact that not only have you had so many changes personally, but you really are somebody that's about community, that same community that supports you. So 2020 happens, you've trained, you get the news it's not happening. What do you do?
So, I mean, it was sad. I mean, 2020 was a tough year for everyone, right? For me, I was ready to qualify. I had my ticket booked to go to Czech Republic. A lot of money was invested by my sponsors to head down there. I was feeling great. I felt at that point I was mentally and physically in the best shape in my career at that point. But again, then, COVID happened, and, the president of the Powerlifting IPF decided to cancel all international events, local events. From there, just seeing on the news of what was happening around the world, it was it was tragic. It was really upsetting to myself, and I'm pretty sure all people around the world, seeing that people are passing away due to this illness. And again, just reading on the newspaper, seeing on the news of what was going on, really upset myself, upset my family. I had a lot of family members that worked in the healthcare field. So, after hearing the stories and seeing everything on, social media, news and radio, everything, me and my sponsors wanted to make a change. We wanted to turn this negative experience into a positive, help in some way. So, we decided that all the funding that was going to go towards me in Czech Republic at the World's Powerlifting Championship would be used to purchase food supplies to donate to local hospitals. Things started picking up in regards to social media. We had a lot of people from, the news, radio contacting about this initiative. Once they heard about this initiative, they started contacting us directly. What can they do? We just basically said, you don't have to join us, but it's just, picking up a phone, calling a local hospital, calling a local school and be like, hey, we want to help. What can we do? So, we did that for about maybe a year and a half, going to local high schools, elementary schools, and just basically thanking them for all their hard work that they're doing. Because, it's not easy. And we just heard, as we're dropping the food supplies, as we're thanking them, they would tell us of what they're going through. And that was a really touching moment for us, right? And we were just grateful for what all they've been doing during that tough time.
Well, and those conversations always allow the opportunity to embrace their perspective, right? Then it expands our view on the world. You get to understand a little bit about what their human experience is. While simultaneously, we're all going through this experience that none of us could really grasp or understand the magnitude in the moment. I know that this charitable... It's a huge part of who you are. That's not where you stopped. So you've been involved with a lot of other organizations.
Once I had established that, I won gold for Canada, I wanted to use that platform in a positive way. So, I decided to, go to local high schools, elementary schools, and just in the Lower Mainland, and give presentations. Hope, my story would, just tell them what I had to go through of, losing weight, telling them stories of what sacrifices, what I had to do to win gold for Canada. And, honestly, just going to local high schools, elementary schools, and talking to these kids really made my day. And I'm pretty sure it made their day, because I feel like when I was in school, we had a lot of guest speakers, and I feel like has sort of gone away in today's world. And so, I was grateful to just had the opportunity to go down to local high schools and elementary schools and just give these presentations. But, after I was in my presentation, I had a lot of kids come and approach me and ask questions. What can they do? End of the day, my goal was for hopefully my story would inspire them to follow their dreams, right? I'm not telling these kids to, go be a powerlifter or something. I'm just telling them to, I put a lot of time, I put a lot of effort, and I was able to achieve it. All these kids would, after I'm done my presentation, would come up and, thank me. And, I felt that they were inspired as well to follow their dreams.
The impact of that is massive. I mean, I've shared even on this platform before, I had a talk in my school, and I still remember, and I always say when I tell this story, I wish I knew who the presenter was, but I had gone through a really huge loss in my life. I was 16 years old, young, you're finding your way. And I remember the one line from his talk was, you can either use the difficult things in your life as your excuse to fail or your reason to succeed. And that little mantra from this talk is something I'm 36 now,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
still hold on to that. So
Yeah.
the ripple effect of taking that time and investing it with this youth can go
Yeah.
a super long way.
100%.
Why was that the avenue that was so important to you? Because we live busy lives. The
We
fact
do.
that you're willing to invest the time.
Honestly, I get that was one of my goals is like from my teen years, I've always been giving back to the community. You know, I used to volunteer with Big Brothers, Crisis Line. So from an early age, I've always wanted to give back. But you know what, I have a lot of like nephews and nieces, and you know, and they tell me stories. I'm like, when I ask questions like how's school and this and that, you know, it's all about internet these days, right? And they don't have people that are willing to come in, give presentations, and you know, I felt like that has sort of gone away. And again, I wanted to, you know, give back to the community. And, you know, once that platform of me winning gold for Canada, you know, I wanted to use it in a positive way. And I feel that I've sort of done that, you know, going to local schools, elementary schools.
Talk to me about winning that gold for Canada. Do you remember the emotions of that day?
Growing up, you see on the news, like it's at the Olympics, you have people on the podium and they play the anthem and all that. It was, for me, I'm one of those guys that are quite shy, right? I wouldn't like sing the song, but it was a huge moment. Like I remember when they were playing the song, my wife was singing along, and I was just, you know, just quite shy and whatnot. But it was a huge honor, and I'll never forget it. Just, you know, when they put that medal around my neck, it was such a honor, such a privilege, something that I'll never forget.
And you've achieved so many goals in this relatively short period of time, big investment within that time, but it's quite impressive to go through all the stages that you have. Where are your sights set now?
I'm not done with powerlifting yet. You know, right now, possibly going in October to compete again at the North American Powerlifting Championship in Mexico City. If not, I would like to go to compete at Worlds and see how things go there. So these are some of my goals that I still want to do, still want to accomplish, and we'll see where things go from there.
And when you're at this level, how intense is the training? Like if, let's say, the goal is a show in the fall, what does life look like for you? And how do you deal with the balance? Because I do think when people go to the competitive level, balance can sometimes be a little bit harder to manage.
Oh, for sure. It's hard. I mean, like now me and my wife, we got a newborn, and
Congrats.
Thanks. We got to juggle that, and, you know, got to juggle that work, and working out on the side. So it's, you know, you got to have a set schedule. You got to, you know, put in the time, you got to put in the effort. But when it comes down to showtime, it's, you know, you have to sacrifice, right? Like you have to get up early in the morning. You got to go to the gym. You got to eat right. Again, it comes down to having proper scheduling.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness. And it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information. Getting that gold, amazing.
Yeah.
But between then and that moment, on top of the sacrifice, there's probably a lot of days where you don't feel like it either. There is momentum that brings you along, but it's pushing past those times when we simply don't feel like it. How do you motivate yourself in those moments?
I had days when I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. I want to have a cheat meal and all that stuff. But again, for me, it came down to was, you know, surrounding myself with positive people. You know, my wife would always be like, no, you got to eat right. You got to do this. Be grateful for that you made it this far. You know, you've beat out other competitors, and other competitors would want this opportunity, you know, and then, so, you know, it comes down to, you know, when you're unmotivated, you always need that, you know, one person to motivate you and sort of give you that little kick in the butt. And, you know, I felt like, you know, throughout this whole process, she's been there through the thick and thin, and, you know, that's motivated me. So again, it comes down to surrounding yourself with positive people. You'll have days when you're unmotivated and, you know, you don't want to do it, but you just got to remind yourself that, you know what, you got to put in the time, you got to put in the effort, and just surround yourself with positive people. And, you know, if you do that, you know, that's when you get that hunger back.
People want you to succeed. Like, do you find, because you speak to your first competition where you felt the support of everybody, when you get to those higher levels, is it that still same type of environment? Does it get a little edgier on the competition side? I
mean, when for sure, I mean, you'll have people from other countries, right? And it gets a little bit more, it's a lot more competitive down there, right? Because you're representing your country and whatnot. But again, it's, they still want you to succeed. I've been in situations when I had people, from the UK, even though I didn't make my lift, they'd come up and be like, hey, you know what, that wasn't a good effort there. And same thing with me, I had competitors that didn't make their lift, and I would go up to them and be like, hey, you know what, that was a good effort there. I'm sure you'll get it next time. So, there is that competitive edge when it comes to these international events, but overall, it's such a positive experience. The positive experience outweighs the negative.
I get that some people probably like to
Yeah.
puff up a little bit,
yeah.
be a little intimidating, but I'm
yeah.
always more a fan of the other route. To each their own.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the fact that you have had such this charitable spirit. Obviously, you have the advantage that you've worked very hard for, I should add, to have this platform, because it allows you to connect with so many more people, and you have this story that you're willing to share that obviously resonates with people. Similarly, if there are people that kind of have that platform and aren't using it to that degree yet, what would be your overarching message to them? Because I imagine, as you mentioned earlier, it feels good to give back. So what would you say to them if they haven't quite taken advantage of the platform, the benefits that could be yielded from that?
I use my platform in a positive way, and you'll feel so grateful. And I'm sure, for someone, who has a platform, just use it in a positive way. And I can guarantee it, once you do like a donation or do something positive, you will feel grateful. You will feel rewarded, and, only good things will come your way.
This is a really refreshing mindset.
Yeah.
I'm so curious where the root of this is. Were you always like it? Was there like an example that you had, a role model?
From my early childhood, it was always my parents, my grandparents. They've always, helped people out. Indeed, like at an early age, I would always go to India, and I saw a lot of poverty down there. Just seeing kids with no hands, starving, no clothes. So at an early age, seeing poverty in a whole new way, that really, really makes you feel grateful for what you have, that you have food on the table. And, I still, remembering those images, they're hard to forget. I just remember I was just grateful for what my parents were able to do for me. And again, we would always, my parents would always set up, set up a table, make food, and even though we were visiting India, we would make food items and just give back to the kids down there. So from an early age, I would say my parents, grandparents, they would always do good deeds in the community, and that sort of, I learned from them and have been doing good deeds, I guess, since then. That's
a pretty incredible lesson to learn from a young age, and especially, when we're exposed to certain things from childhood, again, our brains are so malleable, you're absorbing so much. So to be able to have your parents lead in this incredible way by example, so that you were, because those are difficult things to experience, but my God, how important to have that part of your life so that you do understand what the need is, right?
For sure. Now, I'm grateful that I was able to see that and able to do, I was grateful to have, my parents, my grandparents to be my role models. Now being a father myself, now it's, I want to do the same stuff, what they did to me. So hopefully all of this, donations, giving back and everything, it'll teach my son to, as he gets older, is to give back as well too.
Well, it sounds like he has an impeccable role model on many fronts. How old is he now?
He's 11 months. He's turning 1 next month.
Incredible. How has this transition been for you?
It's been such a rewarding, positive experience. Once he was there, it was it's an eye opener for sure. But it's been such a rewarding experience. So grateful to have him in our lives. The goal is to eventually have him out there and, do a competition, and you can see his old man can lift.
I love when I see the videos of, moms, dads that have their kids in the gym space, because one of the biggest things I remind people is, truthfully, the gym is a play space. We just forget that.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, that's what you discovered when you first picked a weight. What was that feeling like for you?
For me, it was just when I first started lifting, I'm like, holy crap, I can lift this, right? It was, and it wasn't normal weight. It was 50, 60, 70 dumbbells right off the bat. I'm like, this is pretty heavy, but I'm making it look easy. You just got to believe in yourself.
Well, I love your positivity. I love your message, and truthfully, leading by example in a big way, not just for your son, but for all those kids that you're doing those talks. Again, I tell you that story from my own experience, and I hope that sticks with you, because it could just be one child when you're doing those talks.
100%.
Can change a course of a life. And oftentimes we discount the magnitude of impact one conversation can have.
You know, I'll tell you this. I remember I went to a local high school and I gave a presentation there. I told them again what I went through and all that. Brought my medals in and everything like that. And again, I work in law enforcement as well too, and talked about a little bit of my career there. And after the presentation was done, one of the kids came up to me, started asking a lot of questions, opening up to me and all that stuff. And just asking questions about my career, asking questions about my powerlifting, and just telling him what I would do, sort of putting him on the right path. And the teacher, he's a good friend of mine, he came up to me after. He's like, "Hey, that kid actually opened up to him." Like, yeah. He's like, "That is unreal." He's like, "He's, for the whole year, myself, the counselors, we've been trying to, get him to open up, but he hasn't." And then he's like, "I'm really surprised that he opened up to you." And hearing that really made me feel good. I'm like, again, it could be that one kid that, hearing that presentation, it can go a long way.
It's a lifeline. I mean, every single human on this planet is having a different experience. Exactly. Yours is different from mine. Yeah. Even people within our own families, their interpretations and experiences are different. Yeah. And depending on what mindset or circumstance somebody's going through, reaching out that little lifeline, either through charitable action as you are, because your ripple effects, Canadian champion, but helping out people on a global scale. And then when you go super granular, just that level of kindness, I think that it causes this beautiful reverberation in the world. So thank you for using your platform like that. I can't imagine, as you mentioned, working in law enforcement. Do they know that they've got a power-lifter that's messing around there?
Yeah, they do. And then,
that must keep people in line.
They do, right? And then, even like, I've used that as a positive impact too.
I always love to leave people with a nugget of wisdom or a little spark of motivation. So you're full of them. Yeah. What note do you want to leave us on?
If you have a goal, if you have a dream, just put in the time, believe in yourself, surround yourself with positive people, and that goal will be met.
And you are huge evidence of that. We're going to be cheering you on. How can people connect and follow you? Because I'm sure that there are charitable initiatives that people can help support. For sure. So how do we best do that?
Again, they can contact me on my social media, Instagram, Sumeet Sharma Bench Press. If they have any questions about powerlifting, any questions about community or anything about giving back, they're more than happy to contact me. Brilliant. We'll make sure we put those handles in the show notes as well. Thank you, not just for taking the time out of your day to join me, but to invest the time in others to share a message of positivity, especially with the platform that you have well earned. And congratulations on your journey, because I always like to say the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. Yeah. And you've invested in the hustle and it's paid off in spades. So kudos to you. Thank you for having me. You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.